I've technically been playing Twilight Princess for about 10 years, so I'm happy that 2024 was the year I finally got to see the credits. I first picked it up on the Wii in 2014-ish, got about halfway through, then dropped it around Snow Peak Ruins. Then a few years later, in about 2018, I picked up the HD remaster for the Wii U, luckily during its price dip before it reached the extortionate price it is now. Then I played it for a short while, then dropped it again. Then last year I thought, this is it, I'm finally finishing it this year. Played it for a while, then dropped it at, you guessed it, Snow Peak Ruins. But this year I didn't want to leave that save file to rot and picked it back up and finally pushed through to finish this game's pretty great third act. As a self-proclaimed Zelda fan, I'm pretty ashamed it took me that long to actually finish it, especially since I think it's probably the best part of the game. I think the reason why I kept dropping it around Snow Peak Temple is that the first half of the game really plods along. The pacing is almost aggressively slow and getting around the world seems pretty inefficient, but the second half of the game opens up a lot more, and while it's by no means the best incarnation of Hyrule, you can have a bit more fun with it in this part of the game. Also, the game doesn't hold you back much with not much of a dictated pace for the last third especially. The last handful of dungeons are a lot of fun and a great set of puzzles, and you can pretty much do them all back to back with only a few overworld prerequisites in between. It also helps that this is when the sword play is the most fleshed out and you have the most items to play with, even if some of them aren't used that much outside their dungeons. And then you get to the finale and that confrontation with Ganondorf is iconic for a reason, and it really felt monumental to finally get to play it myself after I've been building up to it for years. While Twilight Princess isn't the best Zelda game, it really got me missing a more classic feeling 3D Zelda, since while I loved Breath of the Wild when it came out, after waiting so long for Tears of the Kingdom, only for it to be a little disappointing, I'm just really hoping that when Nintendo finally return to 3D Zelda, we get something a bit more reminiscent of what Twilight Princess does well, which is fantastic atmospheric dungeons and a more linear story that's easier to get invested in. But what do I know, it took me a decade to finish.